We're going to have a look now at what the international press is saying, what it's headlining on. Dipti Kodohan is back. Hello again, Dipti.
Good morning.
The Brussels attacks, of course, main story in much of the world's press, with a lot of the press pointing their finger at what they believe are blatant holes in EU security and intelligence.
A lot of finger pointing in the international press this morning, Melissa. A tragedy of errors. That's what The Independent says, a play on words of comedy of errors. The paper basically looks back at the news that Ibrahim el-Bakraoui, one of the Brussels attackers, was actually stopped by Turkish authorities trying to reach Syria, and he was sent back to Netherlands. The Turkish president really took to task Belgian authorities on this, saying they were warned and they failed to attack and even let the suspect go. Belgian authorities saying, of course, that the suspect was known for criminal activity but not jihadism, and that's why he was let go. So a really differing opinion between the two countries.
Now, more widely, Dipti, the international papers have ripped apart Europe's intelligence.
That's right. The New York Times wonders in this article, how is it possible that terrorists can cross European borders, but it seems that EU intelligence itself cannot? It's a great headline on this article. Now, the press has really come down hard on what it calls an absence of a centralized European counter-terrorism agency. And the measures or the organization that does exist already is blatantly inefficient. Now, the New York Times criticizes EU countries, saying their interaction with each other on the matter of counter-terrorism is simply haphazard. Meanwhile, I want to show you this article from the China Daily, which really gets into what it calls Western liberalism. It criticizes Western liberalism, saying that it allows terrorists to disseminate extremism and recruit terrorists from within Europe, those who are already disenfranchised from society.
And now Israel, a country that knows a thing or two about terrorist attacks, has also weighed into the argument, Dipti, with a scathing statement from the Transport and Information Ministry.
That's right. The minister actually said, the Belgian newspaper is talking about it this morning. That's L'Avenir, the Belgian newspaper. The Israeli transport minister basically accused Europe in general of being lax when it comes to terrorism. And he said, I quote, "If in Belgium they continue to eat their chocolate and enjoy life, presenting themselves like big liberals and Democrats, ignoring the fact that some Muslims are there organizing terror attacks, they will never be able to fight against them." So very, very strong words there.
Harsh words, but the Belgian press reacting to the allegations this morning.
That's right. Libre, the Belgian newspaper, has penned an editorial, a very emotional reaction from the newspaper. There's a real sense of sadness, frustration, and also hurt that comes across in this editorial. They basically react to these allegations from the international press, saying Belgium has failed by allowing Salafism to breed in certain neighborhoods, but it also reminds readers that Belgium did successfully capture Salah Abdeslam alive. And it says that while there are lessons to be learned, Belgium is a complicated country, politically, economically, socially, and this is something that neighbors and the rest of the world have just not been able to understand.
Now, the Daily Beast has written a very flattering article about the taxi driver who drove the three attackers to Zaventem Airport and who then led Belgian authorities to them.
Brussels taxi hero, that's what the Daily Beast is calling this cab driver. For security reasons, he's not being named there. That photo there is actually of the attackers. It's an extraordinary story, really. He dropped the three men off at the airport, and it would have been a rather uneventful service had it not been for one fact, that's the men actually squabbled with the taxi driver when he picked them up because the cab was too small. They had 5 cases, and the cab would only take in 3. And the driver really remembers that they were acting shady, and they ended up leaving 2 of the cases back at the apartment. And that's one of the reasons that when this attack happened, he remembered this and drove police straight back to that apartment.
Now we end, Dipti, on the analysis into terrorists who act with their brothers. The New York Times has a piece on this.
It's a really interesting article from the New York Times. You can read more about it. It really is an in-depth investigation into why the benefits, I guess, of terrorists acting with their brothers or brothers acting as terrorists. From 9/11 to the Boston Marathon bombings to the Charlie Hebdo attacks, the one thing that's in common is that these attackers were brothers. and this sort of terrorist brother, so to speak, is actually quite a common recurrence. For a number of reasons, brothers are attracted to terrorism together. They sort of auto-radicalize. They radicalize each other. They keep watch on each other while attacks are being played out. They can also communicate much easily and evade authorities much easily. And according to an author quoted in an article, around a third of the people sent to launch terror attacks actually came from the same family. Now, it's worth noting that they're often not sent to the same places at the same time for fear that they could convince each other not to carry out that attack.
Just as they egg each other on, they might back down together. Thank you very much indeed for a look there.